Welcome back to my guests, anybody who's listening to a recording in the future because time and space travel. Um, I'm Exo, and this is episode 6 of A Game of Holes. I had a pretty lengthy break. My December was a train wreck, so I've fallen very short of my goal of having one of these episodes out every 2 weeks. I'll be working to rectify that, so I suspect we're going to have a bunch of these done in the month of January, and after that, I'll be trying to get rolling with a more frequent cadence. But for tonight's episode, I'm going to be bringing on. Well, they're here already. I've got three people that are probably several people that you've probably heard of. We've got Timoxa Zero from Full Broadside. We've got Sully from the Tuskers and Stephen Hawk King from Hotline K162. And tonight's main focus is going to be talking about raiding nullsec from a wormhole really, and how they accomplish that. A bit about them, and the usual introductions and sharing some more wormhole spaces with everybody out. So, to get started, why don't we get going with, I guess in the order I have them on my slides. Sully, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yep, sure. So I'm Suleiman Shouaa, the CEO of Tuskers. Most people call me Sully, hence the name. But the Tuskers are historically a low-sec pirate corporation, which has been the case for most of its time in Eve, which is over 6 years. About a year and a bit ago, almost 2 years now, we moved into a C2 wormhole with a static nullsec and a static class 5 wormhole connections, and since then we've been using that to raid out of the wormhole into nullsec and getting into quite a few good fights. We've also participated in the Alliance tournament as well, which is where a name might also be familiar from. We're a pretty small gang orientated group. The largest gangs we tend to push out on an ad hoc basis are about 5 men, 5 or 6 people, but we can sort of ping up to about maybe 15, 16 people at the uppermost.
So you've actually been playing for a while, slightly longer than I have, and in what's generally rare to find, it looks like you've spent almost your entire career in one corporation. Um, without turning it into a giant story, how would you describe the path and journey that the Tuskers has taken from when you first joined them back in 2009 to the Alliance tournament winning masters of small gang and nullsec hunting that you guys are today?
So I mean, historically, for most of the time, it's been, I would say, pretty stacked. People come and go. We've always been small gang orientated and solo. One of our requirements for membership, which I think is probably unique amongst maybe all corps in Eve. I haven't heard of seen another corp have the same requirement, which is everyone has to have at least 5 solo kills to be able to join. We don't have any skill point requirements. We don't have any doctrine requirements. Everyone has to be able to solo. And that sort of made sure that we've got, our roster is pretty capable of solo finding their own content, which obviously helps. A couple of years ago, we did the Alliance tournament for the first time. I helped out with one with the Hydra Reloaded team in AT10. In terms of practices, I did a very minor contribution, and that sort of got me hooked. So 2 years later, for AT12, I asked around in Corp to see who was interested, and enough people said they were, so we made a team. We placed 4th on our first attempt in the Alliance tournament, and since then, we went better and better. AT14, we won, which probably helped by the fact that Hydra or Hydra Vidra, whatever you want to call them, weren't in the tournament at the time due to issues the year before. And this AT that's just the Alliance tournament has finished, we didn't place quite so well due to I'd say unfortunate. Due to unfortunate brackets, we lost matches against the eventual first and second place Hydra. So I mean, it's always been there. We've attracted a few people who are tournament interested in tournament play, but with the court being so sort of solo and small gang orientated, it really helped get those people who can communicate quite well in a small group, who can kite effectively, which is sort of what the advanced tournament's all about.
Great.
Probably a long explanation, but
Well, that's fine. I mean, I think it would be hard to really try to fit it all into just 2 sentences. Your corp's got a history that most corps can only dream of having, so it would be a disservice to try to do it quick. Rolling up into the next one, Steven, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Stephen Hawk King, not to be confused with my wheelchair accessible friend, but I've been playing Eve off and on for years now. Started off as a high-sec Care Bear, blitzed my skill training into a Raven Navy issue, thought I was like the top dog of the Eve universe until after about a year of that I realized, wait a second, shooting red crosses was boring to me anyways. So stopped playing for a year. Friend was like, "Come on, let's play again. Let's play again." Reluctantly gave it another shot. Took a shot in the dark and joined some random nullsec group called Of Sound Mind. This was my first experience with like actual Eve PvP, and I just remember sitting there in my caracal on a station, dying to bombs as everybody's like dock, 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 and I'm just like, "Oh, all the pretty colors." Um, After some time with Of Sound Mind, finally started to figure the things out. They moved to Wormhole space. I moved there with them. Uh, After a period of time, went my separate way. Went back to nullsec. Tried that for a bit, and just found out not a big fan of wormhole brawls. Not a big fan of sov mechanics, and so it only made sense to find the kind of the perfect mixture of the two of those things, which fortunately I ended up finding with Hotline K162. Just a good group of dudes who do small gang PvP out of wormhole space. I would technically say we're nullsec PvPers that live in a wormhole, if that's fair. But we do, occasionally engage in fights in wormhole space. It's just really dependent on, with whom and in what. As far as that though, Hotline K162 is just a group of people who enjoy small gang PvP, and small gang is, as has been described, just you know not 80 dudes and faxes and carriers, which I've always found more enjoyable because the one appealing thing, or the most appealing thing in Eve for me personally, is always just that sense of adrenaline. Oh, I could actually lose something that has some, imaginary intrinsic value to me. Um, and that's always been cool. And never have I felt that so much than with Hotline K162, where we're extremely reliant on each other. Which kind of bleeds into, we are recruiting, and as far as if people are wanting to join, we're just looking for people who as well enjoy small gang, enjoy a good bout of banter and can competently fill a role. Because in small gang, if you have somebody who's in a role that doesn't do that role well, it can make the whole thing collapse. It's very dependent upon everybody knowing what they should be doing and doing it. Other than that, I just found that having the nullsec static gives that freedom of being able to pop out anywhere in nullsec, which is cool, because if you get a really boring region, like some people are forced to live in all the time, God help them, we can just roll away from that, whereas they're kind of stuck there. I think that pretty much covers most of it.
I think the ability to roll off wormholes when they go nowhere useful and just go get a new one is probably the number one reason most wormholers say that they love the space they live in. I mean, regardless of what it is.
It's an extreme asset.
And last but not least, Timoxa, would you like to introduce yourself and your corp?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously my name is Timoxa Zero. I've been playing Eve for about 5 years, I'd say, on and off, depending on just how interested I've been in the game. I've probably done just about everything you could think of. Mined in high sec, done missions, PvP in low sec, done soft null, NPC null, and now I'm in wormhole space. It's been pretty good. I've bounced around high class and low class, and the only thing that's really fitted me has been nullsec roaming. and I've been at it for about probably almost 2 years. I started with Hotline, but when they had first started, they were much larger in EU time zone than they were in US, so it didn't really work for me. And that's when I started full broadside, and my goal was to sort of be, I guess, the USTZ version of Hotline, in the sense that we had lived in a nullsec static wormhole, and we just were nullsec PvPers that lived in a wormhole. And we started with 3 guys who were tired of the shenanigans in high class and were just looking for a change, and we moved into a 2.6 null pulsar where we still live today. And we just started roaming. And eventually, our friends and their friends just kind of tagged along, and now where we're at today. I think we have 40 people-ish. And, I mean, we've been in this hole for a year and a half, and we're still going strong. That's about it.
Great. So, I guess the first question on my little clipboard, that I think the answer is probably pretty obvious, but I just want to hear everyone's 2 cents, is what made you or your corporation decide that a static nullsec is what you were after? I'm not picky on who speaks up first.
So I'll probably jump in, I guess, because first anyway. So for us, it was simply, as sort of described, but by others, I think it's probably the same sentiment, is that sort of feeling of, okay, you wake up, there's a terrible wormhole leading to, don't want to name region, a terrible region, yeah? There's nothing going on from a PvP perspective, and you're like, okay, well, I'm making a cup of coffee or doing whatever, let's just roll the hole, and suddenly now we have a wormhole to a great part of nullsec where we can fight for like 5 hours, 6 hours. When that, the locals log off because they're either been killed too much, or the time zone. You roll into like a very specific time zone area, and then they all log off because the time zone collapses and there's nothing going on. You then say, okay, roll it again. Now you run into a nice little active pocket for your time zone you're now in, and then you just repeat. That's the reason we chose a wormhole with a specific nullsec exit, because you can't really beat that PvP on demand. I mean, we were based in nullsec for my corporation for like 7 years or something, and one of the issues you come in any space you live in is all the locals all get to know you. So one of the issues you get into is all the locals get to know you if you're static. So they either they say, okay, well there's a corporation X, Tuskers in my case. They all their modus operandi is they will run a small ship to tackle something and escalate up. Okay, let's not feed them anything, let's dock up, and people would stop fighting us, and you'd have to run further and further away to get the same sort of engagements. Whereas now with a static nullsec, you could see the same group of guys maybe once a week, and the collective memory of that organization is not very good. So every time you roll into them, they will have forgotten what you did to them last time.
Are you saying that your average nullsec player has a very short memory?
I would say
it's more
probably
collective
Alliance.
memory.
I'd say Alliance in terms of small gang PvP is what I meant. Sorry. So like if you ask a guy in a Vexen Navy or something from Goons like who tackled you a week ago, he'll be like, I have no idea, I can't remember. Yeah. And so he might get complacent next time. Might not recognize the guys in local, the ones who tackled him. The exact same time, and obviously you have churn. You will not find the same VNI pilot probably each time, but you might find his court mate who he never checked his mate's kill board or anything. Idea what you guys are capable of doing or how you operate.
Thank you. That was solid. Go ahead, Steven.
Oh no, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just gonna add on to that with you can also wind up in places where they don't expect you, because it's not like normally going through nullsec where they've got their intel network, their network set up, they've got their little isalts set up off the gates. That's all fantastic, but it doesn't do them any good when our wormhole happens to be right inside of that ratting pocket. There is no warning. There's no, well, let's camp them into this pocket because we just leave through our wormhole, which is, it's pretty nice. It's the whole, spooky wormhole people. You get to do that when you just appear out of nowhere from a place that didn't exist moments ago. You dunk them, and then before they realize it, you're just gone. But with that also comes the fact that it is RNG based. You are hoping that you roll into somewhere nice. I mean, there are days where you'll go without getting somewhere nice, and nice is completely relative. I mean, some people would say Goon Space and Delve is nice. I wouldn't agree because good luck killing carriers. um, but no, I mean it's nice because it is just all of those things. You know, also that one of my court members who's watching also pointed out is we get to reship more freely. It's not like, oh, we have to go back to our staging system and dock up and figure out what we're doing. It's just go back to the wormhole, grab X, Y, and Z things, and then you're back out in the action. You know, assuming polarization and whatnot.
You know, I
that's a good
actually
point.
tackled a goon carrier during the week of Christmas, and we actually successfully killed 4 of them. Even
Nice.
with them
How many
escalating.
supers did they drop on you?
I think once it got into the double digits, our simmies weren't holding, and we had to pull off. But we were just kiting them with Gilas and some simmies, and they're nothing was even tackled. They're just aggressing on a gate. So we just kept slowly burning down because they were a buffer fit. But eventually, once I think they brought a Titan that started shooting our simmies with lots of high angles, and it fell apart. But my favorite part of that engagement was really just one of the people in the fleet saying, we really shouldn't bother tackling carriers. This is in the middle of Delve. And then we did it anyway, and it worked out. But I'm sure for everyone of that story, there's like 30 cases where you like tackle that carrier. He liked a Sino, and then like your grid insta explodes. Anything you wanted to add for that question, Timoxa?
Yeah, definitely. I think I touched on it a little in my monologue where I said there were just 2 or 3 of us that were getting really tired of high class and all the talking, giving people fights no matter what, and just people always complaining no matter what kind of fight they got. So I think we were just really tired of that, and I was fresh out of hotline from the TZ mismatch, and I just kind of brought up the idea that hey, maybe we could go to a nullsec static and just check it out. It seems really fun. And we went to a 2.6 null pulsar, and we ended up having a really good time initially. The idea of just being somewhere new whenever you want was really fun.
Wait, did you say USTZ hotline? Are you guys recruiting? No, I'm kidding. I had to meme my guys watching a little bit.
Yeah, I think that and just being able to pop out on someone who's maybe riding in their super or mining in a Oracle and just not really paying attention. Maybe having Vintel or some intel map open, and normally they'd see you coming from 6 jumps away and be out of core and docked up by the time you get there. But the idea of just popping out in their system and instantly being on top of them was really exciting, and it's paid off really well.
All right. Second question I had on my little docket here. How much do your corporations utilize your wormhole static? I think Timoxa's in he has a C6. I believe the Sully and Steven, you guys are both in static 5s. How much do you actually hunt in your wormhole chain? Do you use that for logistics, or do you find it easier to find decent like high secs to bring stuff in just through nullsec?
We do the majority of our hauling through the C5 chain as a corp. Trying to move stuff through. What we try to do basically is we keep the nullsec always aimed at PvP. So, and generally the holes that you want to PvP out of are the ones which aren't very good for hauling. And we just use the C5 as logistics. I mean, we do occasionally get fights. One of my favorite things to do is I run like DSTs out with my ults, and I bring my main along. DSTs are tanked enough that if someone tries to camp my DSTs in or set up a bubble camp, I kill them with my main, and then keep hauling. So they are content, and we do find sometimes groups who fight us, but typically the majority of our fights, I'd say like 95-96% of the volume of our fights are through the static and not through the C5 static that we have.
I'd second that. We do a fair bit of logistics kind of wherever is most convenient. Roaming holes are generally better than C5s just because, fucking C5 highways are a nightmare. Scan 8 C5s just to find out the next signatures are more C5s. But I mean, as far as hunting in them, it's kind of more on an opportunity as far as
jumping
actively.
probes. Yeah.
Yeah, no, like occasionally, obviously, if we see something that's like super tantalizing, we'll go for it in wormhole space. But um, from my experience with wormhole brawling, anyways, it's a lot of which side's bigger and brings all the pieces. And with smaller numbers, smaller gangs, you're very rarely that group. Which can be frustrating, and you don't want to drive down the desire to play just because you're throwing your pilots into a bigger wall, if that makes sense. But I mean, the C5, it's nice for content because even then you can get wandering nullsecs through it. But yeah, the nullsec static is the moneymaker. That's where the fun's at.
Yeah. The other thing that's as well. What I find, we'll probably get into it a bit later, but the wormhole PvP that we get, majority of wormhole PvP is sitting on themselves, which means that there's not many kills. There's not many. There are some tactics involved, but you don't have quite as many. I'd say as many tactics as you do, particularly in small gang settings, is like fighting on a gate in nullsec or off a gate. You can bubble. You've got aggression timers, etc. And people in wormholes, rightly or wrongly, they tend to be a bit more risk averse because of the whole logistics of getting back into the fight, getting back, which I can understand. So most wormhole groups, if we run into them, basically it will turn into they will scout us or we will scout them. We will try to bait them or whatever, or we will form up a gang, which is a legit gang, and then they will think we're a trap or we're gonna suddenly escalate with a carrier or something, so they won't jump into us and be like some Mexican standoff for a couple of hours as they try and get the nerve to fight us, and then they sort of stand down again. The nullsec, you tend to get a lot less of that. The way we use it, you just sort of jump on some unsuspecting victims. The fight starts, and before they know what's happening, they've started losing ships.
And even if you don't mean to kill the person that you tackle, sometimes even just holding them, you can bait out some crazy feeds from people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
like it's insane.
You tackle a carrier with it, and you see what happens.
But you can trickle people into a system, so they're like, oh, they only have 2 fucking dudes. We can totally take this. They just start trying to blob the shit out of you like they do. Suddenly you turn your 2 dudes into 8 dudes, and then it's like, well, surprise. I love that about it. Oh, gives me tingles.
Yeah, with ours too, like we don't really go out looking intentionally for like heavy armor brawls because, like I said, when we formed this corp, that wasn't really what we were looking to do anymore. So we do have like some W-space doctrines that we use, and if someone presents a fight to us, we'll do our best to take it. But I think our C6 static is usually just used for scanning high sacks for logistics, or also just scanning more nullsec holes.
Just to get some decent low-sec holes as well. If you get a low-sec wormhole to a decent part of low-sec, you can get fights through there as well. More similar to the no-sec than it is than the high-sec logistic holes.
I'd also imagine that there isn't exactly much dank pew for you to find in your static 6s, Timoxa.
Sometimes, usually it's off the chain of the 6 and not the 6 itself. We have gotten some really good fights from just random corps who, for some reason, live in C6 space, but generally speaking, no, we don't really get a whole ton of fights.
All the hard knocks renters that don't know what they're doing.
Yes, easy fights.
Shit, any renters that don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So, and hopefully we're gonna get a couple different answers here. What is your favorite ship to hunt with when you go out into your nullsec?
So with my main, I like to fly in a Drake.
I can't tell if serious.
I'm serious. It is honestly a great PvP magnet. So basically, the Drake is a great. So one of my ex-corp mates basically like a Drake fish, and we all joking around with it, and then we went on one roam, and it sealed my love for the Drake once again after the Pod of the Drake nerf from a couple of years ago. So basically, the Drake is tanky enough that to kill significant on the field, but you can't just kill one with like a rail cormorant or 2. They have to put a battle cruiser or a relatively DPS-y cruiser on the field to kill it, and it has and it's not, and even then it's still not easy to kill. The Drake has different fit options. You can put E-War on it, etc. The other advantage it has is it's very has DPS all over the range. So if like the fight goes sideways, or like if they drop like a dread on you, you can push out to 100 like 70k away from the dread and still do damage. So that's why I like a dread. It's a bit of a probably not the answer you're expecting, I guess.
Well, so do you hunt with the Drake, or are you more baiting with the Drake?
I will go gate to gate without scouting in a Drake. With my main, and my ult just follows behind me in like a saber mostly.
So it's like a solid mixture of both.
Yes, so I have the saber too. This is like, so obviously I'm not aiming for the anomaly runners. Typically, so I'm not the greatest hunter in my court by far. I've got really amazing hunting guys. Shout out to Glassy in particular. And they will tend to go out with like an inti ult, and they're mainly like something which can deal with like a couple of frigs on field, so like a rapid light cruiser or so. And that's a pretty solid combination. But like I said, I prefer the Drake if I'm doing it, because I'm not particularly good at hunting down anomaly runners. I'm much better off at like trying to start a fight with someone, and like a Drake on a gate is like a lot of people love to shoot Drakes.
I think my favorite hunting ship, definitely the Comet Probing Heretic when I'm hunting caps. It's just double extender and like co-pros and nano on the lows and double hypers, and a lot of the issue with catching caps in nullsec is people will be 100k off the anomaly and aligned to their Fortizar, so it's really difficult to like estimate what range to warp at, and landing in anomalies, you could land on them, but they could be 60k away, and by the time you burn over, they're already gone. So with the Comet Probing Heretic, you jump in and drop probes in the middle of the system, and in one pass, you can usually catch every cap, oracles, carriers, supers even, and you just warp right over there, and that's my favorite for hunting caps. But just for running around and doing small gang stuff, I'm a really big fan of the Loki. It's really versatile, and there's a lot of different things it can do. I've flown it is like 100-man heavy missile ship or artillery or hams. It's really can do everything.
It's the new Tengu. It really is.
What range do you put your combat probes at when you're trying to one-off capitals?
I usually do it at 16 AU just to cover the most, and it's generally enough to catch most capitals in one pass. Sometimes you might have to go to 8 if you catch them on the edge, but usually just putting them at 16 and sticking them in the middle of all the anomalies will catch you whatever's in there.
Cool. I think I'm going to have to try that one.
Down, it's very, very easy to probe them.
Yeah.
If they don't have their NSA online, their SIG's sensor strength is quite low relative to the size of the ship.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Steven?
I mean, honestly, I would have to say my favorite tackle ship is the Thor Calden guy. This guy is an absolute beast. Sorry, shameless shout out to the Goy. No, this guy's like been top of the KB since he joined. But I mean, not to be fucking cookie cutter about it, but I mean, interceptors, man, they're strong at what they do. Their sig is ridiculously small. They go really fast, and they can hold point on things, like crazy strong. When you've got a frigate that can perma lock down a carrier, that feels good. And, not to say you're not going to lose a bunch of those learning how to do it right, but it's just all around a good tackle ship. There's not much that can, get away from its speed. Its lock time is incredible. I don't have to SIBO it or do any cheese. There's no baiting. It's just you find people with their pants down. You help them pull up their pants, but you're still holding onto the belt when they try and run. Occasionally we'll do baity things, but the good bait ships are the ones that people are less likely to take, in my opinion. So why bait them when you can just catch them?
I liked your pants analogy.
Thanks.
So, if you're not hunting, what is your preferred ship or ships related to backup? Somebody in your group's got something to tackle on, something juicy. What are you throwing at him to help back that up?
Ooh, I'll inverse the order here and jump real quick on this one. Anything that's not a Cinnaball? No, but I don't know. I hate to be that guy, but the Orthrus, it's really strong. It gives you range management when you're fighting outnumbered. Being faster or further away than the things that you're fighting is a huge benefit. Because I mean, once you get in tight on, you know, a ship that has a scram on you, you're pretty much there, and it's just whichever side can win. But other than that, damps. I love damps and jams, honestly, because of and I don't mean this as like a salt farming. No, I kind of do. But like the tiers they give, man, holy shit, it's really crazy. It is. So the carries is a ship that I personally love flying, but as far as the corp, just like kitey things, man, you got to keep range, you got to keep going, because otherwise, the moment you get caught, if they bring too much stuff, you just lose whatever's caught, which can be a shame.
For my corp, when we're roaming, it seems like the new Loki has become really popular. Artillery Lokis, heavy missile Lokis. The Omen Navy has always been a really popular choice for us, and I think it's our top ship on Z-Kill. But Omen Navy, just anything kitey, I think, like Steven said, even though it's really cookie cutter, it definitely is true. Depending on what's tackled, like if it's just a Vexor Navy, you can bring whatever, but I think there's a lot of ships that are built for different purposes, so if I had to pick something, it would definitely depend on how the fight had started and what it was escalating to.
Yeah, and to clarify, that was Orthrus or jams, not a jamming Orthrus. Oh my God, Stu would kill me.
So what do you use for jams though? Are you using a Kitsune, or are you taking like a kitey
Oh
rug?
no, full AIDS Falcon. Let's go.
Makes sense. How about you, Sul?
I like to bring a dual point Onyx with rapid lights. A lot of guys, well, people in my court will be aware. One of my biggest pet peeves is I fly really aggressively in a gang. And one of my favorite, and I get really annoyed when people let targets go, basically. So for me, it's got to be holding down tackle in an Onyx is very easy, and it does. You know, it can drop tackle, which is what someone else mentioned, which is critical for the groups. You know, it's absolutely critical to be able to drop. You know, not have to worry about if a single that you can easily remove it from the grid quite comfortably. But like I said, this is just a great ship for that. And I can keep it on grid I can keep it on grid against carriers as long as there's not, you know, many without too much of an issue.
Well, as I was hoping for, we got 3 equally valuable but different answers for that question. Hope we'll get the same for this one. So, what's your favorite, I guess, ship to find and tackle out in nullsec? Like, is your favorite? I mean, ISK value maybe ISK the most expensive. Excuse me, most expensive thing is most important for you. But what is the most satisfying thing to pull off a tackle and then eventual kill on? Is it riding carriers, rattlesnakes, rorquals, just a whole bunch of dudes mining?
Definitely rorquals that don't have like the really tanky fits, people that just fit them really greedily with like drone navs and don't have panics or sinos, and it's really satisfying just to, you know, watch them beg in local for help, but no one's paying attention, and you just kind of slowly whittle them down because they have no active tank and no panic.
For me, it's probably Black Ops. In that I like counter dropping people. Well, basically destroy. You know, if you want to cops are, you're there for PvP. Walk cars are great. Walk cars are probably better for like actually getting a fight. You can, you know, getting that escalation you require because the amount of money on the field is so much higher. People just throw anything at you just to keep that Vorqual alive. Black Ops, I'm just a big fan of because people react in a similar sort of way, in my experience, and you tend to get a bunch of bombers or another Black Ops decoy, and it becomes another feed, from my perspective.
I mean, if it were the corp answering, it would probably just be shiny things, because we actually kick the loot out to whoever tackled the ship. If it's me personally, like the standard stuff, rattlesnakes are awesome to catch. Strategic cruisers, I mean, plus you get the added benefit of letting them retrain. You know, always got to keep learning. And you know, capitals and rorquals and stuff like that. But my personal favorite is just really ridiculous fits. Because you can find some pretty entertaining things like ships that have hull tank and armor tank and shield tank, but not very good of any of the three of them. Those are always fun. Just to be like, why would you even? And then that, and I guess it's not technically a ship, but going out and trying to MJD off goon excavator drones is fantastic because they're like super expensive. They get super salty about it, and it's really by the hair of your chin because you're in a desi, and they'll generally bring carriers, and so it's can we get these things far enough away, fast enough so that those fighters don't just eat us alive. Thrilling. Ooh.
I can definitely see that. I've done that once before, and it was hilarious. Who is your favorite?
Yeah, it's a good mixture of. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I mean, I think the best experiences are a combination of both fun, nice kills, and salt from the people you just blew up. I'm not really sure you can ever ask for more than all three of those things bundled up, and Goon Excavator Drones generally provides all three. So, speaking of goons, who is your favorite group to hunt? I mean, if region is a better question, then by all means you can answer with the region. But if you could roll your static null right now, and it opens up to where/who is it that you're killing on the other side?
Russian Care Bears. Sorry to jump in on that, but like, and I mean that as respectfully as possible. But like, Russian botting space. If you can catch some of their ships, woo, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I think like the purpose of catching big stuff and like going whaling, definitely like Malpai, Outer Passage, any of those areas, and even like Tenal too. If you get lucky, you can catch Rorquals or people who are just like not paying attention and get some really juicy kills. But for the purpose of getting a fight, I definitely say like Fade. Horde gives some really decent fights as long as you can take control of the grid and just let them bleed in, but control it. And I think definitely some really good fights from Horde, but for whaling, probably anywhere in drone space really.
I have this group in Chinese group in Detoroid. I love fighting. I'm trying to recall their exact name.
Do you guys Ranger Regiment?
What, sorry?
Ranger Regiment, maybe.
Yeah, Ranger Regiment, and there's another alliance they're blue to in that area. Can't remember what it's called though. But guys, they are very eager for a fight. They don't blob, super hard anyway, and they will keep you as long as you don't catch them in a. They have very little blues as well. They it's. I've not had a fight yet where they light a Sino and 20 carriers come in or something. It's typically 5 of us is about 15 or 20 of them, which is pretty good. And they will keep reshipping and reshipping and reshipping, and they say, good fights all around, sort of thing. But yeah, I like Delve to a certain degree as well. If you get a fresh Delve hull, you can do some funny things. A couple of kills. For the first hour or so before you got on their intel networks, because of how. You're in Delve when you're on a gate and a super carrier just decloaks next to you, sort of thing, and a Titan decloaks next off a carrier, decloaks, warps off, a warp car decloaks, warps off, and you're between those is like a bunch of Marauders that are going by, Black Ops that are going by, all those kind of things, which are quite easy kills because the whole Wormhole dynamic is they expect people to appear on their intel networks from 10, 15 jumps away.
Oh yeah, and there's a sense of complacency too with regions like that. They feel far safer than they are just because of those numbers. Yeah. X-Death's pretty fun too. Shout out to them. I love you guys. Keep bringing the fun fights.
Well, couple different answers there. Yeah. How do you guys determine whether or not a region is good to go out roaming in? Personal experience, I still have no idea where half of the different regions are. If you were to give me a map and say where's any of these regions, I probably couldn't give you the right answer. So you jump your nullsec and you see you're in region X. How do you determine whether or not that system or that area is worth doing anything with, or if you should just roll it and go find another?
Dotlan.
So for me, what I do, I've got people who are far better actually hunting at regions. But what I typically do is open up Dotlan, because the regional name alone, it doesn't really tell you much. Because it tells you what part of space you're located in, but there's a difference between in the center of the region and like on the outskirts. Open up Dotlan, have a feel for what regions are adjacent, how many jumps we're talking about, and then number of pilots in space, military index.
Delta's good as well.
Yeah, Delta's good. Metrics you can use to quickly figure out if the key thing is how many people are actually moving. If you're hunting for like a ratter or something, you want people who are just moving from system to system, because that's where they're most vulnerable, or where they're static killing stuff in anomalies. You don't want people who have a lot of people docked in stations, in most cases, unless you want a fight. You want that after you get something tackled, you want to have them to have like backup nearby, so that it turns from being a simple gank into being a proper fight.
I think a lot of it is based on like previous experience. Like if I jump out a Malpai hole, I can tell right away there's gonna be people botting in Gilas, or there's rattlesnakes. There's like Borkles in certain areas, but like Suleiman and Steven said, a lot of it is based just off of Dotland and like being able to use the in-game app effectively too. Being able to read an industry index, and that tells you where mining's going on, or seeing the amount of NPCs killed per hour, and you can estimate like, okay, that's where ratting's going on. But I think, like I said, the personal experience plays a lot of it too, because if you go to an area enough times, you're gonna know exactly what happens out there.
I mean, you can even find people who you've found before. You know what they're in. You know their MO. You know what they like to rat in, where they like to rat. So yeah, I would agree 100%.
All right. Well, so I'm more or less done with the list of questions I had. So if there's anybody that's listening on Twitch that has questions they'd like me to ask, feel free to drop those into the chat. But while I wait for maybe one or two people to type into that thing, a question that I just have overall for all three of you guys. Something I noted that pretty much all three of you noted when you described your corporations is that you've got a lot of people that join, and they're the kind of people that are happy to go out hunting by themselves. They're effectively content creators, even if in a limited sense, that they're the kind of person that logs in and just goes to try to make sure stuff's going on. How do you actually go about trying to recruit those? Like when you're reviewing an application from somebody, how do you tell if someone's actually going to end up being one of those people, or they're just saying they are? Because I think for the most part, every corporation says that they're trying to recruit content creators, and that's what we want people to be. But actually succeeding at it is a lot trickier to really achieve. I don't know if there's really tricks to the trade, or maybe it's just you let them in and see if they pan out or not. But I'd say, all three of you guys seem to be doing a pretty good job at it. So figured I would ask.
We bring our new recruits out on realms with us before we accept them. Generally, like during the application process, we do forums, and they'll fill in their application. People will look at their Eve board and read their answers and ask some questions. And if we get far enough to where we think like someone is probably a good match for us, but we're just kind of not sure, and like they don't really have a vouch, we'll ask them to come roam with us, and so we'll give them a case space and give them docking access, and either they'll bring a couple of their own ships, or we'll just throw them some, and we'll just kind of bring them roaming with us and just see how they interact with everybody and see how their piloting is, because I think kill boards can be a little bit deceitful in terms of like activity. Like somebody could have a lot of kills but not really be a content creator. They could just be good at
Absolutely.
going out and just listening and F1ing on kills. So I think bringing somebody on a roam for 2 or 3 nights and just seeing how they interact and how they communicate is really important for groups like ours.
I think that's one of the traps a lot of groups fall into is they say, all right, we'll only let people in that have good kill boards to make sure that we're only taking in cream of the crop active people that are gonna help go out in PvP. I can personally say that we've tried that approach and not exactly gotten the results that I think we'd hoped for. There's plenty of people that are going to join your corp and be dead weight that have really good kill boards, maybe because they're just really good at being ping warriors. And when you're trying to get stuff or people that aren't ping warriors, kill boards doesn't seem to always be as insightful as I think you want it to be. And it definitely doesn't really tell you a ton about whether or not someone's that good, because it doesn't take that much skill to have a super green kill board.
Oh,
Yeah,
certainly.
absolutely.
We actually operate with a 1 month trial. So, a lot of it's the first application part on the forum where we get to kind of needle them a little bit, and they get a chance to needle us a little bit and see if there's that magical love spark between the two parties. And if there is, then we just throw them on a generally 1 month trial where they get to learn how we fly, we get to learn how they fly, and we get to cohesively kind of determine whether or not it's a good fit. But as far as explicitly looking for tacklers and content creators, it's hard because it's a quick position to burn out on. It's a very tough spot to be in, because you have this sense of, oh, I'm responsible for the content for this group of people. Why the fuck aren't they just going out and catching shit as well? I try and avoid getting like people who just tackle stuff, because you'll find the burnout rate to be a lot higher. It's instead kind of about grooming them into the type of content that you do, and seeing if it sticks. Would be my own personal take on it, anyways.
Yeah, I mean, what we do is our application process. In some ways, it's quite simple. In some ways, it's like I said before. I think we have a problem. I've not heard of another corp that has the same requirements. Apologies if there is. You have to have 5 solo kills to get into corp, and 2 of those have to be challenging or above class, basically. So you have to kill like a destroyer, or fight a gang solo by yourself and get at least 2 kills effectively, even if you die. That makes no difference. Those are that is the hardest requirement that we have. So you have to be able to demonstrate. By doing that, you demonstrate that you can actually find your own content. You're capable of doing it. Whether or not you do is another matter. And that's already sort of a barrier to entry to quite a few people, because the people who just sort of jump on for roams, or jump on just whore on other people's kill mails, they sort of get I would say probably turned off by that. The other part we do as well is every person, we have no tiered system, we have no trial period. You apply, you fly with us, get vouchers. People, you fly before you join, and once you're in, you're in. We don't have like any sort of trial period. We have no minimum activity level. We have nothing like that. Like we have 0 requirements and skill points, etc. Because the attitude is my experience than like any skill point or any metric that you can get. We've gone down that approach in the past with a much more complicated application process, and the process. I think you could try and make a process as complicated as you want, but there's no substitute than the guy. There's nothing better than having the guy fly with you, or the girl, and seeing whether they're a good fit or not. Whether they, we've turned people off because we've said, look, all you do is you log on, you wait for us to do something, and then you just jump on our kills. We want you're out there hunting and killing and calling for help and helping us. And it seems to be working. From my experience, we've got quite a lot of activity.
Yeah, the last thing I'll add to our part of it is, since we do give the loot of what's tackled to whoever tackled it, it's incentive. Like, you give them the desire to want to go out and catch shit.
Yeah, that's an interesting. So what we do, which is probably pretty similar actually, is typically we have no corp loot policy. If it's something big like a carrier, then the corp it goes to the corp fund. But then we offer completely free of charge like ships for members. So we offer like Drake at the moment, like Drakes, Osprey navies, Sabres, Stilettos, Cerberuses, Gilas, completely free of charge to members. And there's no it's not a replenishment. It's not a ship replacement scheme. It's literally on contracts at the moment. When I checked yesterday, there were like 48 ships on contract for 0 ISK. And that's where the corp money goes, which people dump in. So active pilots, I literally hand like one of our pilots every time we bring in a bunch of stilettos, like 50 stilettos. I give him like 10 of them straight away because I know he will go out and he will, he'll lose 10 stilettos, but he'll catch like 50 things or something. And for us, it's far more, just giving him free ships is, well worth it. In terms of content, you tackle that stiletto cack was 1 carry, you get 50 kills off that or something.
So would you say that you find that subsidizing your tackle and your content finding ships really helps out with getting people motivated to go out and do that a bit more?
A bit.
I don't think it hurts, put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, it can't hurt.
Probably quite difficult. Yeah, it probably doesn't. It's quite difficult, I think, to measure it. But from my perspective, one of the worst things I hate about doing personally is, you log on and you're like, oh, I've got no ships, I haven't got a stiletto, I haven't got whatever you like to roam in. I'm just going to log off again, which is like if the corp literally ships in, 50 stilettos or something, puts them all on contract, you log on, you're like, oh, I haven't got any stilettos. Okay, I'll click on corp contracts. Oh, there's a stiletto, pick up stiletto, or Osprey Navy or whatever, go roaming, and what was that logistics headache?
Sully, stop! You're giving my court members ideas.
I mean, we make quite a bit of risk. So at the moment, like the other day, I put up like 18 billion worth of stuff to sell for the corp, which is all going back into ships for them to use. Leadership or something makes we're not renters. We don't have any bills to pay apart from like a poultry alliance maintenance fee. It goes back into how many. If you gave your members 18 billion worth of like Osprey Navies, stilettos, that's quite a few stilettos.
I expect I'd log back in. There would be no ships and no corp. I'm kidding.
Yeah, maybe.
No, I'm just fucking around. No, I mean that's totally fair. Since we do our loot payout differently, our corp is not like, oh, we're not super rich. But there are certain things that we will provide for people to use. But it's more so like necessities. I do count tackle ships personally, especially sabers, fuck's sake, as a necessity.
Yeah. I mean, we started off basically just doing it straight for stilettos. Like we were offering massive discounts, like 75%, or like it was actually it's like I don't think it was even a percentage. It was literally 2 million stilettos on contract for 2 million, sabers on contract 5 million, sort of thing. Which is crazy. Fully fit sabers, ready to go, all that kind of stuff. But in the end, we were just like, we were making enough money from like stiletto kills and from losing stilettos. And well, let's give them for free. Start flying more. A few other things helped out, and it became we suddenly have this massive amount of money that we can spend. Let's just keep pouring it back into more shit to fly. Like you say, killboard stats mean very little. Like I say, despite us being winning an AT, people have this sort of preconception that we really care about killboard stats. I do a lot of the sort of I do quite a few of the applications for my corp, and I don't even open up Z killboard in most cases, except to just verify that the kills they've submitted are the kills, all that kind of stuff. But I don't do anything more than that. And I think what a lot of groups do, and I think it really hurts them for what they're actually trying to get out.
Oh, absolutely. Like, fuck Z Killboard. I saw somebody ask it earlier, but like, do you value Z Killboard over fun? Absolutely not. Never. Like, Killboard's great for certain things, finding out little bits of information, but too many people use it as a crutch, especially during recruiting, like he mentioned. It's a tool. Use it as that, and then like let it be. But at the end of the day, it's a game. It's supposed to be about having fun. Killing internet spaceships.
It's Sully. Kensai 5000 asked how you differentiate between solo versus a main with their alts when it comes to solo kills.
I mean, all I care about is he's on one of his characters and he gets a solo kill where it's one of his clients versus another ship, and they solo. We haven't really got into many. There's very few. It's quite funny. I mean, you would think that sounds quite easy, and to be honest, from my perspective, for the guys I'm trying to get in, it's pretty easy to do. We've had quite a lot of debate about it internally. I don't think we've had this enough. I'm not sure if this question was about having, if a guy was dual boxing and he killed someone solo, does that count like a stiletto and DPS ship. We haven't really, as far as I'm aware, we haven't had someone submit one of those kills as a solo kill period, and I would be open to looking at that and considering that as a solo kill.
All right. We've got some people that want to know everyone's thoughts on nano munins.
Fuck's sake.
Specifically, Kellar Udan really wants to know.
Undock it and self-destruct. That's my answer.
I think they're okay. I mean, like, the optimal ranges are right. But I think you're really held back by the fact that you only have 3 mids, so you can get, like, prop mod extender point, and then you have to play really aggressively, where you can just fit, like, double extender prop mod or prop mod tracking computer extender, but I just think, like, it gets really overshadowed by the Loki because of the long range you were.
We had I'm trying to remember the corpse met. A guy flew a RT Loki on a RT Munin, sorry, in a Nano gang. We were fighting like multiple dreadnoughts on grid with like a 20-man subcap gang around them, where we had like 5 of us. Kind of works. I mean, it's a lot more. Loki's like your 1-for-1 are probably more effective. They bring extra utility. They're much harder to kill, etc. No doubt about that. But some things you said about engageability, which is again is why I like flying a Drake, is because if a Loki looks a lot scarier in D-scan than like a Munin, because most people think Munion's pretty terrible, which it kind of is. It's also nice to have little snowball ship, because it makes your entire gang look engageable. Where if your gang is literally 10 Lokis or something, that looks pretty scary. Where if it's like or if it's like 5 Lokis, but if it's instead it's like a Loki, a Drake, an Oracle, Kerry's, and an Osprey Navy. To me, most people that looks like a Ragamuffin gang, and a lot more people will probably engage that. So it's not great, but its doubleness can be a benefit.
Yeah.
Sully.
I'm not a fan of the Munin. It's a fine ship for DPS. I'll put it that way.
Yemen Noah specifically would like to know what you think about him.
Oh man, he rages so badly all the time. He's a guy in my corp. You should play any video game with him. He's a really good guy, but he rages so hard. It's amazing.
I played PUBG with him on New Year's Eve, and he was terrible. We had to mute him down to like -18 decibels to be able to understand him when he started getting super mad. He used to be in my corp, but then he died to a procurer and rage quit.
That sounds familiar. I mean, he's a cool guy, but he does rage. I think everyone.
Was he at least in a frigate?
He was in a stealth bomber. It died to a procurer.
Oof.
All right, let's see. All right. So I'm gonna wrap us up here because I think we got just shy of an hour of some solid discussion here, and I don't want to go too much longer. I want to thank you guys for coming. Timoxa, Sully, Steven, thank you very much for your time. Listeners, thanks for coming and helping out with some questions and just letting me know my people still listen to my podcast. I'll get this recording uploaded. Hopefully, I don't think I actually need to edit it at all, really. So I'll get this onto YouTube by later tonight. If you're wondering when the next one is, the next one's gonna happen next week. I'm gonna try to double up one a week until I feel like I've caught up. And towards the end of this month, everybody, if it's your thing, I'll be doing an entire 2017 year in review Wormhole recap that will be following similar to my FanFest presentations, if you've ever watched any of those. So it'll be like that, covering the whole year. Killboard stats, who's good, who's not as good, who's bad, all that juicy stuff that people keep asking me to do on a monthly basis, but I think it's just too much work. So, thank you everybody for coming, and enjoy the rest of your Saturday.